How's it going, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube? Um, so I went back and my second video, which will now be my first video, I guess. I mentioned the first video that I recorded, and I went back and watched it, and I just realized that it could have been a lot better. And so I decided to delete it and redo it right now. I apologize for the lighting. My phone is kind of crappy. I've only got one light up here on the driver's side. I didn't feel like sitting in my bed. My back has been bothering me, and I'd rather sit in this seat. But anyways, let's get down to business. First video was about my experience at CRST and why I decided to leave there and come to Trans Am, which is where I'm at right now. But anyways, I will get into that now. I apologize for the cigarette smoke. I smoke, whatever. So I started at CRST. Okay, first of all, before I even started at CRST, I was working warehouse jobs, dead-end jobs, shit like that. I was actually working in a warehouse for a company that, matter of fact, I'll just go ahead and say Premier Transportation. I was working in one of their warehouses in Alabama, and one day I had to ride with a driver to make a local delivery. It was like 3 pallets of some shit. So I got to ride with him. And, he got to talking about driving for Premier and stuff like that. And, I've always thought about getting into driving. And, talking to him that day or whatever. And, I was just going through some tough situations, some shit that I knew that I had to get out of. It, wasn't taking me anywhere productive. So I ended up contacting CRST. To be honest with you, I didn't do a whole lot of research on it. My fault, whatever. But anyways, end up deciding to go to CRST. They've got the whole spiel. They'll pay for your school, you get to stay there, they'll train you, this, that, and the other, so whatever. At the time, hey, nothing coming out of my pocket, this is where I'm going to go, do what I got to do. So anyways, March 1st, sometime in March, I went up to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I live in Alabama, went up to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, went through their school, passed everything on time, got on the road with my trainer, whom I know CRST, Swift, Trans Am, even a lot of these bigger companies, Prime, a lot of these bigger companies catch a lot of shit, and for good reason. I'm not going to argue with anybody. They catch a lot of shit. I'm sorry, my nose is itching. They catch a lot of shit for good reason. I'm not going to take away from the fact, though, that at every single one of those companies, there are people that take pride in their job and are not the stereotypical Swift driver, not the stereotypical CRST driver, and so on. I get that. My trainer was one of them. I learned a lot from my trainer. He had been with CRST for, I think, 9 years, driving for 16 or something like that. Great guy. Learned a lot. Once I got done with him, I'm going to kind of make this kind of a fast story, just 'cause it's CRST. To be honest with you, I don't even really like talking about them a whole lot, but I figured I'd put out, where I started out at. And I say a lot. I'm trying not to. But, so, come towards the end of that, once I'm getting ready to get off his truck, I get offered a dedicated run from Birmingham, Alabama, out to Blythe, California. Well, really, it was from Birmingham to Phoenix, Arizona, Then from Phoenix, we would deadhead to Blythe, and then from Blythe, we would pick up a load, head back to Birmingham, and then we'd get a couple of days off. Sometimes we just had enough time off for a 34-hour reset. 99.9% of the time, though, we would get a full 2 days off before we had to go back out. Like we would get home, let's say we would get home on a Friday night, like 10 o'clock that night. We would have Saturday off, Sunday off, and we wouldn't leave back out till Monday morning. So most of the time we had 2 full days off. My driver that I was with first, we both got put on that dedicated account. I guess they had just started it or something. Went great with him. I loved him. Great guy. I actually still keep in touch with him. It got to the point actually where when we would have time off, a lot of times I would just go home with him, hang out with him and his family until we had to go back out. Great guy. I love him. Then the time came. CRST was screwing him over on some things that I'm not going to get into. It's his business. I'm not going to put out there. But I was first-hand witness to it. He finished his 10-month contract, decided to move on. Can't be mad at him for that. So anyways, he decided to do that. Long story short, they told me that I could keep the dedicated account. I would just have to find another co-driver. So I found a co-driver who lived in Mississippi. I'm not going to say where. Lived in Mississippi. But for anyone that knows anything, from Birmingham, you run I-10, or I-20, rather. Ooh, sorry, I had a burp. You run I-20 from Birmingham all the way to Texas, and then in the middle of Texas it turns into 10, which then you run 10 all the way to Phoenix, and then 10 out to Blythe, and then vice versa all the way back. So it worked out to where I was able to take the truck home, and the days that we were leaving out, I would head up to Birmingham. I live about an hour and a half from Birmingham. I would run up to Birmingham, pick the load up, head his way, pick him up on the way out there, and then we would run all the way out there. And on the way back, we had it planned where he would be finishing his shift right as he was getting home. And then, you know, when we would stop for him to go home, I'd be getting up, running my pre-trip there. I would finish the run to Birmingham, drop the load at the Conway there in Bessemer. And then I would go home for my 2 days or whatever. And then it just continued like that. But it got to the point where this guy, I would talk to him the day before. First of all, we would know what time we were needing to leave out at the end of the trip. Before he even got off the truck, he would know, like, this is our next load, this is when I'll be picking it up, this and the other. I would always call him the day before, like that morning, basically, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at noon. I would call him, hey, are you going to be good for tomorrow? Yeah, man, yeah, I'm going to be good. Okay, well, it turned into, basically, I would not hear anything from him that morning. I would get there to pick him up. Nobody could get a hold of. I couldn't get a hold of him. Dispatchers couldn't get a hold of him. The load would have to get rescued so it could be delivered on time. And then we would end up having to go somewhere completely different just for them to get us our miles. Like 1 week they had us deadhead to Memphis. Then from Memphis they had us run to Spokane, Washington. Which is fine at the time. I didn't care. I was excited. To be honest, dude, that run out to Blythe, especially once you get into Texas, man, it just becomes boring as shit. You know, until you hit Phoenix, Tucson, that area. I mean, it's once you get past Dallas and whatnot, it's a pretty boring run. But it happened consistently, week after week, you know, and I wasn't okay with that, so it just got to the point where I told them, like, you know, it happened for the final time. Nobody could get a hold of them. The load got rescued. I told them I was going to need another co-driver, and they agreed finally with me and told me, you know, you can go ahead and bobtail back home, and I'll work on finding you another co-driver. Okay, that's cool. I get to go back home. That's fine. I get back home. Let me see what this guy's honking at real quick. I don't know what he was honking at. Somebody was backing in and he's honking at him. They weren't even anywhere near a truck though. He's probably just impatient. I hate impatient drivers out here. Where was I? Okay, so I got to head back home. Okay, so I'm sitting there. 2 days go by. I have not heard anything from anyone. So I contact my dispatcher. Hey, I haven't heard anything. I'm just, you know, checking on everything, see what's going on. His response is, oh, I forgot that I was even supposed to be looking for you another co-driver. Okay, well, that didn't sit well with me. So, at that point, I told him I was going to quit. At first, he said that was fine. A few hours later, he's calling me or whatever and, you know, telling me he can find me another co-driver if I'll stay. I told him I wasn't, that I was quitting. And it got to the point where we exchanged words with each other. After I had already quit, we exchanged words with each other. I found out just truly how unprofessional he was. And, you know, some things on both ends, my end too, were said that shouldn't have been said. But anyways, long story short, he proceeds to fire me after I'd already quit. So I guess technically CRST fired me. Whatever, I don't care. I'd already quit. And it's kind of fucked up because even though they fired me, I'm still under contract with them. Because I tried to go to one company before Trans Am, and that company contacted me back. Like, we had already set up orientation and everything, like a plane ticket for when I was going to fucking leave and go out there to them. And they contacted me back a few hours later and they were like, we can't, you know, CRST said you're still under contract. So that's what the fuck ever, I don't care. I'm past that now. But yeah, I got fired after I fucking quit. So CRST, their flatbed division, Malone, is based in, their headquarters is in Birmingham, Alabama. And they've got a Lincoln Truck Sales up there that deals with CRST. So I was able to go take the truck up there, turn it in up there. You know, and that's basically how CRST went. You know, I had no problem with them until that started happening, and then I quit, and then the dispatcher, who, young guy, probably, I'm 23, I don't think he was much older than me. I don't know, his ego got the best of him and pissed me off, and we had an exchange of words, and he fired me. It is what it is, though. No regrets. I don't give a shit. Looking back, sometimes I do. I was 6 months in, though. I only had 4 months left. Sometimes I do wish that I just finished the contract. But, you know, it is what it is. I don't really care, to be honest. Whatever. So, that's that. But anyways, that's me remaking the first video, because the first one I had recorded just wasn't that great of quality. I said some things in it that I shouldn't have said. That's one thing that I'm not doing these videos. I'm going to try and focus on sticking to. I'm going to focus on and try to stick to putting out useful information. I'm not going to get sucked into all the other bullshit that YouTube trucking gets sucked into. I don't really care about friends. I don't care about groups. I don't care about that. I'm here to put out information to keep me from going crazy, keep people from getting into situations that they don't need to be in, as far as making the wrong decisions, information that needs to be known, questions that you might have. That's why I'm doing these videos. Other than that, I don't give a shit. That's why I'm not going to get into making an introduction. You know, my videos are going to be straight from my cell phone. There's going to be a start and there's going to be a stop, and that's going to be it. It's not going to be great quality, but I mean, you're going to get the gist of it. As you can see, I'm going to try and work on my lighting somewhat. But other than that, production-wise, I don't give a shit. I'm just putting out information. But yeah, that's that. So, you know, if you have not seen my second video, go check out my second video. It talks about more along the lines of Trans Am leasing. You know, how a lot of people lie or tell half-truths. They say Trans Am is screwing them, but they don't. They fail to mention why Trans Am is screwing them. They leave out why, and I'm not okay with that. Because Trans Am is a good company. You know, even if they weren't taking care of me the way that they are, just the fact that they took me, even though I was still under contract with CRST, I mean, that right there in itself, bada boom, bada bing, I mean, that's good enough for me. But I am making money here, and I am successful to an extent. I'm not making a fuck ton of money, and I'm not gonna portray it like I am, because I'm not. I'm getting by though. I'm satisfied. So, but like I said, I'm going home in a few days for 4 days, and then I'm jumping back into another lease. So I will definitely take you guys along for the ride. I'll try to make at least one video every day if I can. Sometimes I'm not gonna be able to. I'm just gonna be lazy. I'm honest with you. But I'll try to. Like I said, any questions, concerns, whatever you want to say it. I don't really care. It's not gonna bother me. But yeah, I mean, that's basically it. So I guess that's it, and check out my other video, and there will be more to follow, so just keep an eye out for those. If you're looking into trucking, just make sure it's something you want to do your research into where you want to go. Don't listen to the bullshit. You know, everybody's experience, no matter where they're at, it's going to be different. It is what you make it. So if you go into it thinking that you're going to fail, guess what? You're going to fail. But if you go into it with an open mind and you work as hard as you possibly fucking can, guaranteed that you will be somewhat successful. Or not even somewhat, you'll be successful. You know, everybody's situation is different. Some people can live off, you know, $500 a week. Some people can't. I'm not saying that's what I'm making here at Trans Am, so don't, what, he's only making $500 a week. It's not. I'm just saying, some people can live off $500 a week. Some people need $1,200 plus a week. You know, it's for you to decide what you need to be satisfied, and go out there and get it. You can make money here. Don't listen to people that say you can't. You can. Okay? So just keep that in mind, and I guess I will holler at you guys later.